The Whiskey A Go-Go was bombed at 2:10 on the morning of March the 8th, 1973. It was a mass murder which sent a wave of outrage through a country which is often apathetic about crime. And the gruesome twist was that 2 months before the killings, Brian Bolton had warned that a Brisbane nightclub would be bombed. Bolton got his information from a well-known criminal called John Andrew Stewart, one of 2 people who was eventually convicted of the murders. Stewart was described as a psychopath, but Bolton had known him for years and he had been an accurate source of information in the past. According to Bolton, Stewart told him that the underworld was trying to extort money from nightclub operators, and to make their arguments more persuasive, there would be violence. Bolton took Stewart at his word and went into print warning of the extortion racket and possible bombings. Then, a short time before the Whiskey fire, he went to the police commissioner, Ray Whitrod.
Well, I couldn't convince Commissioner Whitrod at all. He was the bloke I dealt with most of the time. I certainly tried with other of his senior men at that stage in the administration. I think it was a case of follow the leader here. But his entire attitude throughout was, Brian, this sort of thing cannot and will not ever happen in Australia.
Mr. Whitrod, is it true that 2 months ago the police were told by several sources that a protection racket among Brisbane restaurants and nightclubs was being organised by the underworld, and a well-known criminal from down south, Tag the Collector, was coming to Brisbane to set up this and organise crime in general?
Not several sources. One person reported it to us.
What has been done since that report?
At a press conference the morning after the fire, Commissioner Whitrod conceded that he had received a warning, but he inferred that he had little other information.
We've endeavoured to keep a contact with this particular informant, and who is well known to you all, in the hope that he could give us more specific information about it.
To look at the whiskey now, you'd never think anything had ever happened. It's available for...
After the murder, other journalists began looking for an angle to the story. But while there were claims and counterclaims about the warnings, Brian Bolton, the Eagle, would always be an essential part of the saga. One reporter even saw him as something of a hero.
But there are still some voices raised in protest. People who refuse to let this matter be swept under the carpet and quietly forgotten. Relatives of the victims, some members of the opposition in Parliament, and one weekly newspaper, the Sunday Sun, and its crusading reporter, Brian Bolton.
This murder, this mass murder, the worst in Australia, and I understand from research the 4th worst in the world, should never have been allowed to happen.
Why do you say that?
Because there were so many warnings given by myself and other people to senior police. This is just my own personal sort of self-recrimination. I think possibly if I'd gone up and hit him in the bloody mouth and said, now look, you stupid bastard, whether you're commissioner or not, you bloody well listen to me and put a bloke down there because people are going to die, pal. I often wonder whether
did you?
Yes, I often wonder whether I should have gone to that sort of length, you know.
The question, of course, is why would the police believe what they read in the newspapers any more than Australians in general? And the Sunday Sun has a more colourful reputation than most. Bolton's informant was, after all, a reputed maniac who could have been just another jailbird who cried wolf. 5 years after the murders, Stewart died suddenly in the security cells of Boggo Road Jail, and Bolton himself was a casualty of the whiskey affair.
Right, hey, you little buggers, you've got a grass for you to come and nibble at. Do you the world of good, give you vitamins.
He went through months of depression and drank heavily. His marriage broke up for a while, and as he puts it, he hit Skid Row. But he pulled himself up again, and a new Brian Bolton found a new crusade.
What are you going to about, eh?
The Eagle now saw himself as a sort of urban guerrilla, fighting a war against drugs and prepared, as always, to go a bit over the top.
Drugs affect people stretching from Cape York right round through Melbourne to Perth, and they're doing untold damage to millions of kids. And I think there's a lot of these bastards who've got to be found and slotted. By slotted, I mean exposed and jailed for the rest of their natural life. I think sometimes, unfortunately, we need a law like the Thais have got. Shoot the bastards.
Shoot them?
Yeah, definitely. After all their mass bloody murders, I mean, we all know that. I think that the time has come where a precedent's got to be set. Where the best way to get these bastards is to put them up against the wall and blow them away, as they say, to act as a deterrent more than anything else.
To say that the Eagle sees life in black and white terms is something of an understatement. No doubt the police and the law will decide the fate of drug pushers. But for this 43-year-old journo, there's another war to be won, and it will take him to some strange battlefields.